Hello, I'm Stephanie and welcome to lesson 43 of the B2 course. So this is a grammar lesson and it's the second lesson on the topic of articles. My name's Stephanie, this is level B2 or upper intermediate and this is lesson 43. So in lesson 43 you will have further practice of using articles and consider when the article can impact on the meaning. Now, in lesson 41, which was our first lesson on articles, we looked at the rules. We looked at specific examples when you must use a definite article, examples when you must use an indefinite article, and examples when you don't need an article at all, the zero article. What we're going to do in this lesson is take that one step further and compare some specific examples. Now, the best way to understand this is to practice. So what we're going to do is have a look at an example sentence, compare it, and then there will be a practice slide for you to try. So a really practical lesson, this one. Okay, let's get started. Okay, slide number 1. Compare hospital and the hospital. Number 1, my aunt is in hospital. Number 2, I'm going to the hospital to visit her. What do you think the difference is between sentence 1, where there's zero article, and sentence 2, where we use the definite article? Any ideas? Well, in sentence 1, we mean she is a patient. So it's not important which hospital. I'm talking in general. I'm informing you that my aunt is unwell. She's a patient in hospital. But in sentence number 2, I'm referring to a specific hospital. I'm going to the hospital to visit her. So this example of using a zero article or the definite article is true as well with church, prison, university and school. So it depends if I'm making a general statement or if I'm referring to a specific place, a specific building. Okay, I think we're going to practice this so you can see what I mean. Let's have a look at 10 sentences. In each sentence, you have 2 options, zero article or the definite article. So number 1, in England, children start school at 4 years old. Is it start school or start the school? Am I making a general statement or am I referring to a specific place? Now, when you look at these sentences, you'll notice that in each pair, I've used the same example. So 1 and 2 talk about school, 3 and 4, hospital, 5 and 6, university, 7 and 8, church, 9 and 10, prison. So in one of the sentences, you will need to use a definite article, and in the other sentence, you will need to use zero article. So pause the slide and have a go. Okay, how did you find that? Hopefully having the comparison enabled you to see the difference between the general statement and when we're talking about a particular place. But let's check through the answers together. Number 1, in England, children start school at 4 years old. But number 2, he has to go to the school to pick up his daughter. I'm talking about a particular building here. The same with number 3. I'm going to the hospital near the airport. Again, a particular place. But number 4 is a very general statement. I'm lucky. I've never had to go to hospital. Number 5. Do many people go to university in your country? And number 6, this is the most popular university. So So you can see that number 5 is a very general question. I'm asking a general statement. But number 6, this, I'm talking about a very specific place. The same with number 7, I'm referring to the church round the corner. The church round the corner is the oldest in the area. But number 8 is my general statement. My grandmother goes to church every Sunday. Number 9, are people sent to prison in your country? Compared to number 10, the prison is in lockdown. A prisoner has escaped. So hopefully having that comparison enabled you to see the difference between using zero article for a very general statement or question and using the when I talk about the church round the corner, the hospital near the airport, the school where his daughter goes. Okay, let's move on and have a look at another example. So let's compare a car and the car. Sentence number 1, Nick got into a car. Sentence number 2, Nick got into the car he had bought yesterday. So again, a good idea to pause the slide here. What do you think the difference is between saying a car and the car? Well, in sentence 1, I mean in a more general way, and it's the first time we've talked about this car, so I don't know which car we're referring to. But in number 2, it's very clear to me which car Nick got into. It's the car he had bought yesterday. So sentence 1 is a much more general sentence and I don't have any information. But sentence 2, I'm talking in a much more specific way and it's clear to me which car I'm referring to. So our next slide is going to be practicing the difference between the indefinite article and the definite article. Okay, let's have a look. So there are 6 sentences, and in each sentence there are 2 options, and in each option there are 2. So you have, let's have a look at number 1. You've chosen an excellent hotel or the excellent hotel. It's a best in town or it's the best in town. So for each sentence there are 2 gaps, 2 options for you to choose, and in each option you have to decide definite article or indefinite article. So pause the slide and try. Okay, shall we have a look at our answers? Number 1, you've chosen an excellent hotel. It's the best in town. Number 2, I can't remember the name of the restaurant. Number 3, I love this house. Has it got a pool? Number 4, it's so hot. Let's go and sit by the pool. Number 5, is there a bank near here? The nearest one is on the next street. And number 6, I need to buy a book about doing business abroad, but I can't remember the title. How did you do? Well, remember, the important thing here is the idea whether we know what we're referring to or whether it's the first time we've mentioned it. Perhaps, for example, look at number 4. It's so hot, let's go and sit by the pool. I'm talking to someone and we're referring to a swimming pool, perhaps in our hotel. So we both know which pool we are referring to. But in number 3, I don't know if the house has a pool, so I use the indefinite article. I love this house. Has it got a pool? If the answer is yes, then we would continue with the definite article. Yes, the pool is in the back garden. But this time it's the first time we've mentioned it and we don't know which pool we're talking about. Okay, let's move on to another example. Let's compare breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So again, we have two sentences. Number 1, I normally eat breakfast at 8 a.m. Number 2, I like to eat a big breakfast to start the day. What's the difference between sentence 1 and sentence 2? Any ideas? Well, in sentence 1, we do not need an article because we don't use an article when we're talking about breakfast, lunch, and dinner. But when we have an adjective, so in sentence 2 we have big, then you need to use the indefinite article. So number 1 is eat breakfast, but number 2 is eat a big breakfast. So the important thing here is the fact that there is an adjective, a big breakfast. If there's no adjective, you do not need an article with breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Okay, let's try some practice examples. So 6 sentences. Are they correct or incorrect? Number 1, I was in a hurry, so I skipped the breakfast. Number 2, I went out for an amazing meal last night. Number 3, I think it's best to have the healthy breakfast to start the day. Number 4, my grandparents always eat large lunch and a small dinner. Number 5, don't eat the big meal before you go swimming. And number 6, I had fish for lunch. So what do you think? Which sentences are correct and which are incorrect? Pause the slide and write down your answers. Okay, let's check together. So sentence number 1 is incorrect. You don't need an article before breakfast. I was in a hurry, so I skipped breakfast. Number 2 is correct. You've got the adjective amazing, so you need the indefinite article an. I went out for an amazing meal last night. Number 3 is incorrect because we've put the definite article instead of the indefinite. It should be, I think it's best to have a healthy breakfast to start the day. Number 4 is incorrect. My grandparents always eat a large lunch and a small dinner. We've got the adjective large, we must have an article before it. Number 5 is also incorrect. We've put the definite article the, but we need the indefinite article a. Don't eat a big meal before you go swimming. And number 6 is correct. I had fish for lunch. You don't need an article before lunch. How did you do? Hopefully you got all 6 correct there. Okay, let's move on. This time we're going to compare people and the people. Number 1, I like working with people. And number 2, I like the people I work with. Again, pause the slide here and just think. We've looked at several examples now, so you have some ideas. What do you think the difference is between people and the people? Well, again, 0 article is when we're talking in general. I like working with people rather than working alone. I'm talking generally, people in general. But in sentence 2, I'm talking about a specific group, the people I work with. So not anybody, I'm talking only about the people in my office, the people in my team. So when we're talking generally, again, no article. When I'm talking about a specific group, then I need to use an article. Again, the best way is for us to practice, so let's have a look at the next slide. 8 sentences. You need to choose zero article or definite article. Tea is my favourite or the tea is my favourite. Pause the slide and try the 8 sentences. Okay, well, let's have a look at our answers, and as we go through, I will explain why it's a definite article or zero article. Number 1, general statement, tea is my favourite. Number 2, please can you pass me the tea? I'm referring to something specific. Number 3, general statement, I love holidays in the countryside. But number 4, I will always remember the holidays we spent together. I'm talking about particular examples. Number 5, who are the people in this photo? We're looking at a photo together. I'm talking about specific people. But number 6 is a general statement. People can be very rude sometimes. Number 7, thank you, the food was delicious. I'm talking about the food on the table. But number 8 is a general statement. Food is necessary to live. So again, I think quite clear here and very similar to the first set of examples we looked at. General statements, zero article. If I'm talking about a specific group or a specific item, then I need to use an article. Okay, and the final group. Compare BMW and the BBC. Number 1, BMW manufacture cars. Number 2, I have worked at the BBC for over 10 years. Any ideas? Why is BMW with zero article and why is BBC with definite article? Well, number 1, names of companies and airlines, etc. are usually, not always, but usually without the. But most newspapers and many organisations have names with the. Perhaps you can think of some examples in your own country of organisations that have the, and perhaps examples of companies that have a zero article. Well, I'm going to give you some examples if you haven't thought of any. Let's have a look together. McDonald's, European Union, Red Cross, Mercedes, New York Times, Financial Times, Apple, Ferrari, Microsoft, Harrods, Malaysian Airlines and United Nations. There are 2 columns here because what I'm asking you to do is to decide, do you need to put the in front of the name? Is it McDonald's or the McDonald's? European Union or the European Union? Good idea here. The first time you read through the names and see what sounds natural for you. Then go back to the previous slide and have a look at the rule we talked about and see if you were correct. So pause the slide and try to put them into the correct column. Okay, and for the final time, let's check our answers. So, no article before McDonald's, Mercedes, Apple, Ferrari, Microsoft, Harrods, and Malaysian Airlines. But we need an article in front of the European Union, the Red Cross, the New York Times, the Financial Times, and the United Nations. These are either newspapers or organisations, and therefore they require an article. I really hope you found this lesson practical, and by comparing you have a much clearer idea of the differences between when we use zero article, definite article or indefinite article. It's not an easy topic in English, I appreciate. So again, review is very important. There is a test that you can do at the end of this to practice some more, and we will return to the topic in review lesson 45. Our next lesson, lesson 44, is going to be vocabulary. So we're going to move away from grammar and have a look at a vocabulary lesson on the topic of technology. So I really hope to see you then. Thank you very much for watching. Goodbye for now.